welcome to Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Last month, WCAX News reported a dam drama involving beavers building dams in and around human-constructed dams. According to the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, which owns roughly 100 dams, beavers have constructed their own dams around about 25% of the human-made structures. In an effort for the agency to make the dams compliant, the beaver dams may need to be modified or removed. Which brings us to today's story about a Vermont filmmaker who documented what happens when a colony of beavers moved into his neighborhood. New Neighbors, The Beavers of Allenbrook, is a film produced, written, shot, and edited by our guest today. Jim Heltz is the co-owner of Green Mountain Video. He's touring with this film around the state and working with organizations like Audubon, Vermont to get the word out about nature's eager engineers. And joining Jim is Sarah Hooghuis, who is the senior coordinator of the Youth Conservation Leadership Program at Audubon, Vermont. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming in. And first, Jim, take us back to the fall of 2023 when these beavers moved in.
Yes. So the Allenbrook Nature Trail runs through several neighborhoods in Williston and connects up to the Williston Central School. And there's one bridge by my house that goes over the Allenbrook. And going up to the bridge is all these wooden planks. And I noticed that the planks were starting to be underwater. And I knew in the past there had been beavers there a bunch of years back. So I went to the town conservation planner, Simon Miles, and I spoke to him, and he confirmed what I suspected was going on. The beavers were back.
And so it sounds like the planks were a little underwater. Were there more problems than that, or was it just you were noticing it's more wet?
The water was starting to spread out, so their concern was that it might actually flood the bridge. So that was the major concern, because at one time, probably about 8 years before, that bridge had been moved because of water from the dam, and it moved the bridge, so they had to wind up permanently moving the bridge and to accommodate for that. So.
And this doesn't sound like it's either your or Williston's first run-in with beavers. So what did you know about them before you started this project?
Not that much, actually. I knew that they had big teeth. You know, they had, I knew they had
great start.
They had webbed feet and they had a flat tail, but I didn't really know about the environmental impact that the beavers were making and whether that was a good thing to have or was that something bad. So my wife Grace gave me a book called Eager by Ben Goldfarb, and that book really explained the benefits of beavers for climate change and why they really matter for the environment.
So what made you decide to pick up your camera and pursue this?
So make it clear, I did not have like to film beavers on my bucket list. This was not the thing I wanted to, I was like, oh, well, I have to go film beavers. But the town was very interested to see how many dams are on the Allenbrook. They couldn't really tell what was going on the way the Allenbrook is constructed. So I had a friend of mine, Arnold Weatherhead, that owned a drone. I said, oh, we volunteer, we'll go film the Allenbrook with the drone. And then that was in November of 2023. And then later that November, the 28th, I went out and for the first time I captured beavers on the Allenbrook. And so I put that footage together and I presented it to the town, and they were thrilled. They were like, oh, look at all the dams there were. There were a lot more than they expected. They thought there might be 2. There wound up to be 7.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not that big. The Allenbrook sections that I focused on is the main channel and then the smaller channel, which is the one by my house, and they sort of come together at this point, almost like a wishbone. And that's what I focused on. So they were pretty thrilled. So I said, between the interest of the book and the town's interest, I said, you know what, there might be a film to be made. So
how many times did you have to go out to film?
So I filmed from November 2023 to November of 2024.
Wow.
Which by the way, I wanted to show the 4 seasons, and I wanted to show that the Allenbrook is going to evolve. How it was the day I started and when I ended is going to be totally different. And it's even different now from when I filmed. And so I filmed over 70 times. I was out in the field filming. And that includes me going out by myself to film, to get the beavers and the birds and the lodges and everything. But also I went out for interviews with my wife, Grace. She conducted the interviews. And Arnold went out several times with the drone. And so, by the way, November, which I thought was very interesting, November is the month that they call the Beaver Moon. So I thought I started in November in the Beaver Moon and I ended on the Beaver Moon. So I thought that was a nice bookend.
Yes.
to the
Sure,
film.
absolutely. And when you were going out there and filming, was it you saw beavers every time, or was it kind of a rare occasion?
No. Beavers don't believe in a call time, as you know, in the production business. So I'd go a lot of times they wouldn't be there, but I had a sense of when they would be about, and so though every time was not successful, there was a lot of things to film. Like I said, the Allenbrook was always evolving. So if I wasn't filming beavers, I was filming maybe some other wildlife, or the lodge, or what the dams are up to, because sometimes they break and they have to repair them, the beavers have to repair them, or just how the Allenbrook was changing.
Sure. And Sarah, you're familiar with beaver behavior at
Yes.
the Audubon Center. Tell me a little bit about the beaver activity you guys have there.
Yeah, so beavers and Audubon go back decades, actually. If you went in the early 2000s, you would have seen a nice lodge in the middle of the pond and beaver activity, beavers swimming around, slapping their tails. And then in 2013, there was a severe weather event, and we had a landslide at the Audubon Center, and the beaver pond actually sits at the bottom of a hill, and there's a dirt road at the top, the Sherman Hollow Road. And so we saw a lot of sediment travel down this hill and deposit into the pond, and this made kind of this big mud flat. And so the beavers, unfortunately, this new habitat was not up to snuff. The shore increased about 5 feet, and they have since moved on and come every so often and kind of check out the space now to see if it's adequate for them. And so they came back in 2021 and they had a little stint there. We noticed a lot of chews around the pond were appearing, and we caught them actually on our wildlife cam as well, dragging some, looking like maybe they were going to start building a lodge. But then they disappeared again. And then actually last spring, they came and built a bank lodge, and they started building a dam. The beaver pond flows out into the Huntington River, which the property is on. And so, the water levels were increasing. That shore was kind of filling back up with water. And then the July floods happened. And we saw a lot of sediment come down that hill once more. Because unfortunately the landslide created this little ravine that's perfect for lots of sediment to travel down. And so it kind of disrupted that habitat again. And since then, we've just seen, some chews here or there, but no permanent residents as of yet.
Absolutely. We have an example of a chew. You brought one in, Jim. Let's see
yeah,
it for
let's
anyone
look at that.
not familiar with the terminology.
So, as you can tell, it's pretty chewed up. I mean,
Absolutely,
look at all the
yeah.
marks that they make. And the thing is, their teeth aren't that big. So if you think about it, what it takes for the beavers to get through this is pretty incredible.
Yes.
Yeah,
And plus-
absolutely.
And this is heavy. I mean, has a lot of weight to it. And this is only a small part. And this was all connected to a real big tree that they're taking and grabbing and bringing into the, to make their dam is just amazing. I mean, that's why they're considered like one of those great engineers.
Sure, absolutely. We have a clip from your documentary that I want to get to. You brought this in. It's this first one is of beavers building a dam. Tyler Brown with Vermont Fish and Wildlife explains this one.
Looking at this area, they have a number of dams, and that's pretty typical. Beavers will build multiple dams within their area. So beaver dams are made of mud and sticks that the beavers construct in the water. The reason beavers build dams is to capture that water and impound it. Beavers feel a lot safer in the water than they do on land, so they like to flood areas so they can swim to their food source. Their food source being primarily trees. So your aspen, your birch, your maples, willows, alders, things like that. A lot of the tree species that grow within that riparian area.
And we're talking about beaver dams and conservation with local filmmaker Jim Heltz and Sarah Hooghuis of Audubon, Vermont. So Jim, that was great video of a beaver. How long does it take to get a shot like that? What was involved there?
Well, it takes a lot of hiding, some patience, and a lot of luck. The beavers, you sort of have to figure out when they might come out, but you have to sort of pick your spot and sort of like decide, commit to it. Because if you keep on running around the area, first of all, the beavers are not going to like that, and they're going to get upset, and they'll slap their tail to sort of tell you stay away. And plus we're going to warn other beavers that you're here. So you have to sort of commit to a spot, because if you don't, you're sort of chasing your tail, or in this case, a beaver tail, and you won't get anything. So
And in that clip we saw right at the end, there was another image, which was a cartoon of beavers. Who drew that? Why'd you include it?
Oh yeah. So I drew that. In this film, I had to, in the production of it, I had to wear many, many hats, and one of them was cartoonist. And when I make a film, I really want it to be educational and entertaining. And the Beavers cartoons add an element of humor. You know, it's sort of it's a commentary about each section. So in this section was about dams. So the joke with the beaver
Right, absolutely.
being the king of the world.
And we have one more clip from the show from New Neighbors, the Beavers of Allenbrook, which you can see. We'll tell you when soon. This one is about a giant beaver, and let's hear from master naturalist Laura Meyer, or Mayer, I should say, who's a conservation commission in Williston.
About 13,000 years ago, when the glaciers, which were 2 miles high over Vermont, were retreating, which just means melting out of Vermont, indigenous people were able to come into the area. And at the time that indigenous people were making their way across the country, there were paleomegafauna, and all that means there were large mammals. And one of those large mammals was a giant beaver. This was a beaver that was as big as a bear.
Bear-sized beavers, count me out. In New Neighbors, the Beavers of Allenbrook is being screened on Thursday, May 8th at 5:30 p.m. at Audubon, Vermont in Huntington. That's this Thursday. And for more information on future screenings, you can visit the Facebook page for Green Mountain Video. And that takes care of our program for today. I want to thank the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX for always helping make our program possible. I'm Jolie Whitney. This is Across the Fence. Have a good one.